MJ on the journey back to Silicon Valley. Today we're going to go through a Redux tutorial that's going to build a blogging application, and in the meantime we will get to look at all the different parts of Redux. So what Redux is, it's a predictable state container for JS apps. So basically it's a container where you can keep the state of something. Most of the time it's the state of a particular application. Okay, so it's a predictable container where we can keep that state. One of the benefits of using Redux is, one, it is predictable. So Redux helps you write applications that behave consistently and run in different environments, whether that's the client, server, or native. The other thing, it is centralized, meaning that your application state and logic enables capabilities like state persistence all in one place, like one centralized place. It's debuggable, so it gives you great dev tools in order to see what the state is, how it's changing. Also, the ability to travel back in time to check what state you were in prior to where you are. In case you run into a bug or a problem, you can rewind back and go back to the previous codes, which is really amazing. It's also really flexible, so it works with any UI layer. Usually Redux is really, it got popularized with React, so a lot of people think that Redux is something that you have to use with React. No, you don't. Actually, you can use it with any front-end framework. So you can use it with React, you can use it with Angular, you can use it with Vue, basically any UI layer. So the different parts of Redux are state, UI, actions, reducer, and store. So all these parts play together in making Redux. So basically, so you have the state of the world, something that's a particular way. So the state defines the UI. So whatever gets rendered on the screen is the present state. Then there are actions. Actions are triggers that happen in the UI. Let's say you click a button to submit a form, or click a button to add an item to your cart. That's an action. So the actions get sent to the reducer. The reducer tells us how we should update the state, and then it updates the store, which the store is what holds our state, and then the store contains the state, and then the state again renders the UI. So this is the cycle here. So if we understand how these elements come together, it'll be easier to understand Redux, okay? So let's jump right in. First, you have the UI component. This is responsible for rendering your state on the screen. So this, think of it as your React component if you're using React. In this case, we are going to be using React. The second one is actions. So actions are payloads of information that send data from your application to the store, okay? So when a trigger happens, when you click on a button to submit a form or click on a button to buy a particular item, it sends that action to the store, okay? Then we have the reducers. The reducers is where we put the logic that is responsible for telling how this state should be changed, okay? So when you click the button, the action is sent to the reducer, and then the reducer will tell the store how is it that the state needs to be changed, okay? Then you have the store, which brings everything together. That's where we hold our logic, our state, and that's what's responsible for one single source of truth, if you will. So the entire application has access to one single source of truth, which is the store. So that's basically the different parts of Redux. So the main takeaway here is just understanding how these parts play together in making Redux, okay? So that's about it, guys. So that's Redux in a nutshell. The state, UI, actions, reducer, and the store. Without further ado, let's jump right in. First, we're gonna go to the docs and just hit get started. Now, the docs here have two parts. Let's go into tutorials. Now, there's the Redux Essentials, and then there's basic tutorial and an advanced tutorial. Now, the basic tutorial, you can go in there and look in depth into what actions are, reducers, and the store, data flow, and so on. Now, the basic tutorial is a bit old, and some of it is outdated in terms of what is the best practice to write Redux. The Redux Essentials provide a more up-to-date and a more best practice sort of way to write Redux. So we're gonna go with the Redux Essentials. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Let's go to Redux App Structure right here. Now, in the beginning, they're giving us a counter example. So this is a top-down example, meaning we get already, we're not going to build it from scratch. And then it goes on explaining from top down, from the code out. We're not going to go with this. We're going to build an actual blogging application so that we can do that from scratch, so we can see the different parts of Redux. So we're going to go here to basic, no, I think it starts right here. Redux App Structure. Okay, so click on Redux App Structure and then it brings us over here. The counter example, no, we're still in the counter example, no. Let's go, basic Redux data flow, which is part 3. And yeah, this is it right here, okay? So this is the, well, it's a bit stuck here, it's doing something, hold on. Okay. All right, so this is the repo of the project. You can clone it from GitHub, or you can open up Sandbox if you use that. We're gonna go ahead and clone it from GitHub. For building a Redux React application that's already ready to go with some configuration. So we're going to go ahead and clone this, and then I'll explain what the code is doing, and we'll start. So let's just go here. We're going to copy this. Let's go ahead and pull up our terminal. And then in here, we're going to do, let's say, git clone, and then we drop in that URL that we just picked up from GitHub, and then click enter. This will go ahead, okay, it's telling me it already exists. Okay. Let me go ahead and debug this, but that's the link for you guys, okay? It already exists because I already have it installed on here. So, okay, after you clone the repository successfully, you want to CD into that, okay? So, do CD into it, and then open up the code, okay? So go ahead and do code, period, and then hit enter if you're using VS Code, or if you're using a different code editor, then open it up in your code editor, okay? All right, now after we do that, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the code. Open up the code, let's take a look at it. So this is app.js that's open here. So basically what you have a public folder, source code, git ignore, package.json. Let's go into the source folder. So here you have an API that came with the template. This will have a client and a server. This is to fetch data later on, but we don't have to worry about this, guys. This is much down the line in the tutorial, and probably we're gonna do a second tutorial on that. You don't have to worry about this. Now, in the app folder here, we have a nav bar and the store, okay? So this is one of the benefits of using this particular template. it has the store already configured here for us. And then we have app.js, which renders a nav bar, and then also a section here that just says welcome to Redux Essentials example app. Now, a few things to note here, guys. We're using the React router here. So, yeah, that's the thing worthy of note here, is that we're using the router and then we're using the switch here. So if the user is requesting, for example, this URL, which is the home URL, we will tell them, welcome to the Redux Essential example app. That's what they will have rendered. Okay, that's just a little bit if you're not super familiar with React. And okay, so now the next thing we want to do is start the app so we can see it on the screen. Oh yeah, guys, you gotta run an npm install after you clone this this repository. Okay, so do an npm install, and that's gonna install the missing dependencies for the project. Okay, install your dependencies successfully. You're gonna go ahead and now do npm start and look at the app on the screen. If you are successful, you should be seeing this here. So this is the app and how it looks. Now, the first thing we're gonna do, we're building basically a social media feed. Okay, it's gonna be a list of posts, and the first thing we want to do is create a Redux slice. Okay, and that slice is going to contain data about our posts, and then once we have that data in the Redux store, we can build components that render that data. Okay, so in the source folder, let's go ahead and create a folder called features. Okay, and then inside this folder, inside the features. So in the past example, if you looked at it in the docs, in the counter example, if you open up the features folder, you're gonna find the counter CSS, and the counter slice. So that's basically the proper way to write it in Redux. So you always do a folder that has features. And then in that folder, you put your features, and each feature will have the component, the CSS of the component, and also a slice, which contains the reducer logic. Okay, so in features, let's go ahead and create a posts folder. And then inside that posts folder, we're going to create a file called posts slice.js. And then inside this file is where we will have the reducer that is responsible for the logic to update our posts. Okay? Go ahead and drop a snippet of code here, and then I will go over it. So basically what we're doing here, we're gonna import the create slice from the Redux toolkit, and create slice it will enable us to write a reducer function that handles our posts data. And create slice is something that you get out of the box with Redux toolkit, and we're gonna see it's really useful in creating reducer functions that are responsible for a particular feature. In this case, it's the posts. Creating some dummy data, it's going to be an array of posts. So it's an array of objects. It's containing the ID, the title of the post, and some content. Okay, and there are two of them. So in here, we're defining the create slice. So the name is going to be posts. It's going to have the initial state, the state of the world right now. And the state of the world right now is that we have an array with 2 posts. That's the state of the world right now. And then it's going to take reducers. And reducers will be responsible for the logic for what to do with that data, okay? We've created our slice for the posts. And basically we've created the reducer functionality for the post. Even though we still don't have any particular functions in the reducers, but it's just because initially we just want to show these posts on the page. Okay, so every time we create a new slice, we need to add its reducer function to our Redux store, okay? So let's go ahead in the app folder here and go to store. So in here, we need to import our slice in here. So we're gonna do import. Let me just grab it here. So we're gonna import the post reducer from the post slice we've just created right now, okay? And then inside the reducer, we're gonna add our slice in here. So here it's gonna take a object, and then in here we're gonna give the post reducer function that we've created in the slice. We're gonna give it to posts right here. So now it knows that these posts, this reducer function here is responsible for it. This is the slice that's responsible for it, okay? Confirm that everything is working, we're gonna go into our app here, and we're gonna look at the Redux Dev Tools, okay? And this is a Chrome extension that you can download. And in the Dev Tools here, we can click on State and then see, oh, I have not saved the files. Okay, let's save and save here. Go back to the devs. Redux Dev Tools. Yeah, you gotta save your files. That comes in handy. Check out the Dev Tools now. We click on State, and here it is. We can see our posts. So we are getting the initial state. I don't think we can expand this. Okay, so we're getting our posts back from the store. So it's successfully set up. So the store now is holding our current state of the world, which is our 2 posts. Okay, so things are going great so far. We have our data in the store. We need to render it on the UI, okay? So let's go ahead and create a post called posts list, because our aim is to render a list of posts on the screen. So let's go ahead in here and go to the posts folder. So in the posts folder, we're gonna create our component here because our component has to do with posts. So this is best practice to write the component in here, okay? So we're gonna do posts list.js. And no, actually this has to be a capital letter. That's the convention when writing React components. So it's gonna be posts lists.js. Do RAFCE, enter. Apparently it's not doing it. RAFCE, enter, and there it is. So that's a shortcut to give you the bare bones for a component. And then in here, we gonna, just a moment here. What we wanna do, we're gonna import use selector. And what use selector does is it enables us to read data from the store, okay? This comes out of the box with React. We download automatically when we've downloaded the GitHub repo. Okay, so in here, we're gonna create a variable called posts. And in this variable, we're gonna use the use selector to get the posts from our store, from the current state, okay? So it's use selector, it takes in a state, the initial state as an argument, the posts from the state. And posts is a slice of the entire state that we have. So it goes and pulls that out, okay? Now, the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna put a function that's called rendered posts. And what this function does, it maps over the posts. So it goes into our store and maps over the posts and then renders the post title and then the post content, okay? Okay, and then in the UI here, we're gonna render a section. And then inside that section, let me drop the snippet here. Inside this section, it's gonna render a h2 tag, posts, that's the title. And then in here, it would render rendered posts, which is the function we just created right here, okay? So to recap, we've imported use selector. This enables us to read data from the store. We've created a posts variable that uses that use selector to get the posts from the store. Rendered posts is a function that maps over the store and gets the title and then the post content. And then the UI here, we have a h2 tag and then rendered posts, which is the function we just created here, okay? Now that we've created our posts list, we need to update our app. Okay, so we go into app.js, and then in here, the first thing we need to do, we need to import the posts list, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just do it down here. Okay, so we import the posts list, and then let's see, and then, okay, and then when the user hits the home path, which is this right here, we're gonna render this instead, this React fragment, okay? And if we save this, and then also save this here, it failed to compile, post list is not exported from post list. Okay. Post list is not exported from. Okay, let me debug this for a bit. Okay, I think I know what's going on. Okay, so here it says, okay, down here it says that the post list is not exported from this particular folder, but clearly that's what we write in here. But I think we have to not do deconstructoring here. And to be honest, I'm not sure why, and here it is. It compiles successfully. I'm not sure why that is. If you do, please leave it in the comments below. That would be really useful. But researching that would not be in the scope of this particular tutorial. But here it is. So we have our posts that show up on the page. So everything is set up great. So we got our store configured. We have a reducer function that goes into the store and just gets the posts, and then we have our UI that renders it. So things are going great so far. Able to read data from the store, we're able to have posts that show up on the screen. Now let's add the ability to actually create or add a post, okay? So let's go ahead into the posts folder, and then we're gonna create a add post form, okay? It's gonna be a form that you can write into and actually add a post. So let's go ahead and add a file here that will be called add post form.js. And then inside this form here, I'm going to go ahead and drop the code and then explain it. Okay, so let's look at it from the top. So we're importing React and we're importing the useState hook. And then in here, we're defining a function that's called add post form. In this function here, we're gonna have these hooks, both of these for the title and set content. And then in here, we're gonna have on title changed. Now, if you change the title, we will set the target value to whatever it is that you entered. We're gonna do the same thing for content. And then here, we're just rendering a section that has the HTML for the form. Now, and then on change here, we're passing the on title changed function, and here on change we're passing the on content changed function. Okay. Now, if we go ahead and save this, nothing's gonna happen because we need to update our app.js. So in app.js, right here in our React fragment, now we're gonna add our add post form component right here. And then up here on the top, we're gonna import, okay, it was already imported. I have a shortcut in VS Code doing that. Now let's go ahead and save. It compiled successfully right here. Let's look at the app, and here it is, guys. So we can see now our add new form component show up over here. Okay, so things are going great. The ability to update our store if we actually create a post. Okay, so we're gonna add a post added function inside our reducer here. At the moment it's empty because we're just showing posts to the screen. And in here we're gonna put a function. And this is gonna be a function that's gonna take state and action as arguments. So state is the current state that we have, and then action is the payload that was sent to us, okay? So, and then we're gonna push that payload to the state, okay? And yeah, by the way, we're dispatching this to the store, okay? So this is gonna be the payload that's going to be dispatched to the store. Now, our add form post, it has text inputs, but it doesn't have, okay, let's go to the form. Okay, so it has a text input, but for the moment we have a button here that says save post, but if we click on the button, it doesn't do anything. Because remember guys, the button would be the trigger, that's the action. that happens, and then we need to dispatch that action to the store. Okay? All right, so the way we do that, we're gonna, just a moment here, actions to the store, we're gonna use the use dispatch hook from React-Redux. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and import it. And I'm gonna go ahead and import 3 things here, and I'm gonna explain it. Okay, so we're importing the use dispatch, and this is what you use to dispatch an action. We're importing nanoid. This is, okay, so each object, each post object needs to have an ID. Write that, like hard code it by hand to increment it every time. But nanoid is a good package that we get from the Redux toolkit that enables us to do that. And then also we're importing here the post added function that we've created in the post reducer, okay? And then the next thing, we're gonna write a variable where we're gonna use our dispatch. We're gonna put this under content here. Okay, so it's a variable that actually uses the dispatch ability, okay? And then we're gonna create a function. It's gonna be called onSave post clicked. So this is basically it's a handler for our button when we click it, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and drop this over here. Okay, so it's a function that checks if there is a title and a content, if actually we've entered something. It dispatches the post added function that we've created. And it dispatches it with 3 things. One, the ID, which we're running a function here. We run in nanoid, it will give us a random number. And then here, we're dispatching the title and we're dispatching the content. So we create the post, hit save post, and then that post is captured and it is sent, it is dispatched to our store. After that happens, we set the title and content back to blank in our application. And that's basically what's going on. And then in the button, we're gonna add an onClick that when we actually click on the button, I'm gonna put it here. So now when we click the button, it's gonna trigger the onSave post click function, which we have created up here. Okay? And now if we go ahead and save this, and it compiles when it says post added, yeah, it's the same problem as earlier. So I think up here, we're gonna get rid of the structuring. I honestly don't know why it doesn't work. This is actually how it's shown in the docs. Let's go ahead and save this as well. And it seems like it compiled successfully. Let's go ahead and try this. Okay, title, let's say initial post, since the state already has first post. Okay, initial post. Okay, this is our first original post. Let's go ahead and click save. And let's look at the under here. This is compiled successfully. Let's see, save post. It's not doing anything. Okay, just a moment. Okay guys, we're missing an import. No, we're missing an export. We need to export the post added function. We're not doing that, okay? So let me go and just grab the snippet here. So we need to add this line here. Okay, save this. And then we need to bring deconstructoring back here. So now it should work. Let's bring deconstructoring back. And then now we can go to our app here. Let's do initial post. This is our first original post, right? And then let's hit save. And now we see that this has cleared, and let's scroll down and boom, we see our post. So it is working, guys. So the whole setup is here, even though this is it's a basic application, but it's basically all the parts of Redux working together. What we're looking at is the UI. The UI is getting its state directly from the store. In here, it's given us the ability to actually add a post. If we add post, that data is captured, sent to our reducer updates the store, and then it re-renders over here. If we do, let's do other post, just for the sake of trying it out again. Other pops, it doesn't matter. Okay, some content, and then we hit save post, and then here it is. So everything is coming back dynamically from the store. The point here is that the data comes from the store, and then when the data updates, the components go back to the store again to get the latest. So that's basically Redux in a nutshell, guys. Basically Redux, guys, you gotta remember this particular cycle. You got state, UI, actions, reducer, and store. We have a state in the world. The state defines our UI, which renders. And then in the UI, we have some sort of trigger. Once that trigger happens, an action is sent to our reducer. Our reducer is responsible to tell our store how to actually update our state. Once the state is updated, then it re-renders back to our UI. And that's basically Redux in a nutshell. If you've liked the tutorial, please go ahead, like the video, and subscribe to the channel so that you can get more of these tutorials. And then please go ahead and leave in the comments below what were your first impressions on Redux, or if you had any difficulties with it, things you like about it, things you don't. Please go ahead, leave it in the comments below. And please consider supporting the journey with a cup of coffee. There's a link on how to do that throughout the video. And with that, that's it for today, guys. This is MJ on the journey back to Silicon Valley.